Firstly, good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here. As Anuradha pointed out, I've had a fairly unusual career. I spent about 12 years in the armed forces. I spent another 20 years now in the corporate world, and also 5 years. He's fixing the mic. Because, 5 years in the bureaucracy. So a lot of my friends have asked me, this question that out of these three different careers, which was the most difficult one? So I tell them I don't have the answer to that one, but the easiest one was the corporate. The army. The army. Most difficult one was the corporate, because in the army, at least you knew which side your enemy is. Dushman hai kis taraf. Corporate mein, many times you don't know which direction your enemy is in. So I remember recently I was doing a program for the Adani Group, and I was the charter was to produce a certain number of CEOs, about 75 CEOs in 2 years' time. And when I was talking to Mr. Dr. Malay Mahadevia, who's like many of you who know Adani Group would know, he's the right-hand man of Mr. Gautam Adani. He asked me this question, that when we are developing these leaders have to go into different silos. They have to go into different verticals, airports, cement, ports, so many different businesses. So how are we going to find a common curriculum for them? How will we find a curriculum which will be common to all of them? So the answer that sort of sprang to my mind is, in the armed forces, when the training happens at the Indian Military Academy or the Officers Training Academy or wherever, at that point, nobody knows who's going to go into Armored Corps, who will go into Mechanized Infantry, who will go to Special Forces. There's no idea. But just like when you don't know which sports you're going to play in the future, let's imagine you don't know which sport you're going to play, but you still have about 2 years of training to do. What are you going to do? You will focus on the fundamental first principles. You will focus on stamina. You will focus on hand-eye coordination. Anybody who's played sports here, team sports here, knows that spatial perspicacity, which is a fancy way of saying who is standing where, who is behind me, who I can pass the ball to. You need to have that sense, reflexes. All of these things are universal in any game that you play, right? So regardless of the game that you're going to play, when you graduate from here, go to various different, you might go ranging from an NGO to a investment firm or whatever, you will find that there are certain basic fundamentals of leadership training. The push-ups that you do that help, in the school, I'm sure many of us must have been disgusted and hated trigonometry. How many of you hated it? Calculus, how many of you hated it? Right? Now you would wonder कि साला जिंदगी में कब मेरे को ये requirement होगा calculus करने का, कि इसका height कितना है पता करना है and all that shit. You never need to use it. But what you're doing is you're doing push-ups of the brain. You are being taught how to do abstract solutions or abstract problems, how to figure it out, how to visualize, how to imagine. So it's not to teach you trigonometry, just like push-ups are not to teach you how to play basketball. They are to build your muscles, they are to give you that rigor. And that's the way to look at first principles training. So what I'm going to talk about right now is going to be first principles training. Please ignore this presentation, and I'll tell you why. This presentation was made for a completely different audience, completely different purpose. You might be wondering why I'm using it here. It's to remind me. So no, seriously, I'm going to use, and that's the way you should use always a presentation. You should always use it to remind you of what are the stories that you want to narrate. So don't worry too much about the presentation. I'll just move forward. So today is a very important day. And why is it important today? Not because I'm here, not that conceited yet. Today is an important day because, you know what is the duration? 4,000 weeks. Anyone has heard of this concept before? What is 4,000 weeks? 4,000 weeks is the total duration you will live if you live up to 70. That's it. 4,000 weeks. Do the math. 52 weeks in a year. If you do the math, you will realize, उसमें से निकल भी गए कुछ हफ्ते, है कि नहीं? So today, everything that you will do, every decision you will take, every activity that will happen in your life, every milestone is just this 4,000 weeks. And those of us who are whatever age we are, we can subtract that and know how many weeks we have left with. So in 520 weekends, 10 years will pass. In 104 weekends, no less than that, half of that, your entire training would be over. So there has to be a sense of urgency because honestly speaking, we don't have that oodles of time that we think we have. no matter how young or old we are. There's a fascinating book, by the way, called 4,000 Weeks. You must read it. It will give you I'll keep recommending a couple of books as we go along. And I'll also talk about the importance of building your brain by reading. So we will, and that's the reason for this photo reading course that we are talking about in terms, I'll touch upon that. As Radhi said, I will begin my story with the armed forces. When in the army, we were being taught how to fire a weapon. How to fire. Anybody here who's fired a rifle or fired any sort of a NCC or air gun? You fired a Uzi, MP5. So, when you're taught how to aim at a target, our instructor gave us this mool mantra that I'm telling you. It's actually the mantra of aiming for anything in life. When you are aiming a rifle, there are three components which have to be brought in one single line. You have to take the rear sight of the rifle, the front foresight of the rifle, and line it up in the center of the target. Are you with me so far? Look something like this. That you take the rear sight and the foresight like this, and then you align it to the target. And then you forget about the target. You don't look at the target again. You know why? Because your aim thereafter is to make sure that the foresight is in the bang center of the rear sight. That's it. Why? Because so long as that alignment is maintained, even if your rifle moves a little bit here and there, it will hit the target here and there. But if this alignment changes even 1 degree, half a degree, then that trajectory, by the time the bullet reaches the target, will miss it by several feet. So at this stage of your life, your distance or your vision should be between the rear sight and the foresight. That's it. And so long as you keep that fundamental correct, that my rear sight and my foresight are perfectly aligned, you do not have to worry about the target. A lot of amateurs make this mistake, that they keep focusing on the target and they forget that the alignment of the foresight and the rear sight has gone. So they think, oh, I'll graduate and then I'll do strategy, I'll do this, I'll do that, those fancy words. But actually what they should be focusing on is getting the fundamental basics right. And that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the fundamental push-ups, the fundamental structure, the fundamental drills, because if you've got them right, it doesn't matter what life does to you. If life pushes you off a 20-floor building, you will somersault spin and you will land on your feet, if those basics are right. Are you with me so far? Good. So let's begin with these 4 quadrants, which I think embodies every decision that you will take in your life. Every decision you have taken in your life, every act that you have performed, every action that you have done, every day you have spent, hour you have spent, minute you have spent, falls into one of these 4 categories: health, wealth, relationships, and work. And I will sort of, these are just label holders. I'll expand on each one of them one by one. Let's begin with health. Now in health, there are very clearly 3 categories that I see. One is your physical health, your physical body. And why should you take care of your physical body? Because you have no other place to live. You can't live in any other place. You have to live inside that body, right? So that is the first. The second is mental vibrance. Please remember, I'm not using the phrase mental. I'm using mental vibrance, because mental health, the term itself seems to indicate that somehow you are unhealthy. No, whatever state you are in, that is absolutely perfect. What you are looking for is vibrance from that state. And the last piece I'll talk about is brain health. Why? Equally important. I know some of you may be, sort of physical fitness freaks, and not even freaks, just physical fitness, sort of passionate about it, doing whatever exercises, running, swimming, or whatever you do. But very often we forget that just like we need to add nutrition to the body to develop the muscles, to, protein, this, that, a certain balance, the same thing is required for the brain also. Because if you don't do that for the brain, then just like if you eat too much of sugar or too much of one kind of crap or processed food, your body suffers. Very similarly, your brain will also suffer if it's getting a lot of junk going in. So let's talk about each one of them one by one. The first basic fundamental to take care of your physical body, obviously, is what's the kind of food that you're putting in. I know it sounds very basic. It sounds so basic that shouldn't I be, why even talk about it? But it's a fact that right now your bodies are in a state, physical bodies are in a state where they can possibly take a lot of punishment. They'll take a lot of processed food, crap, this, that, missing meals, not eating, different kinds of beverages and all of that. But body keeps the score. There's a book by that title. It will always keep the score, and you will pay a price for it at some point of time. The second, I would strongly urge, I've got a daughter of my own, and I strongly urge that if you have to learn some sort of a physical activity or sports, you must learn martial arts. Why? Not the obvious reason of being able to defend yourself, but why? Anybody who's done martial arts?
It teaches you discipline.
Discipline and focus, and it gives you immense confidence. Immense confidence. So if you know that, sometimes it happens once in a while, not too often nowadays, but in earlier days it would happen that I'd be somewhere in a restaurant or a bar, and there'd be a group of guys who would be making a lot of noise on the side, and I'd kind of tell them to relax a little bit, and they'd act a little hostile. I would look at them at times and wonder ki main marunga to tu mar jayega. So I will withdraw from that battle. Brother, sorry, I didn't mean to upset you or this thing. But I withdraw from it with a confidence that if I want, I can take out all these three guys and they'll be drinking their dinner with a straw for the next 6 months. But that gives me the confidence to be able to walk away with confidence and my head held high, and not because I'm afraid of a situation. And by the way, please remember one thing. Courage is fungible. If you have courage in one area, you will start demonstrating courage in many other areas. Matter of fact, if you go back in history and you see all exceptional leaders, really exceptional leaders, they have demonstrated physical courage. You can actually check this in statistics. Every woman chief minister of this country has had several attempts at her life. Several. Matter of fact, most of the CMs would be going around with bulletproof jackets and all of that. So, I'm not saying that's what you should do, but it very clearly shows that if you have physical courage, that physical courage is very, very fungible. You will have courage of morality, courage of taking the right decisions. Similarly, the last point, when you say no to stuff that is peer pressure stuff, that dekha-dekhi everyone is doing, it is not just that you're not smoking or you're not smoking up or you're not drinking. It is also you are having the ability to draw a line and say, despite all sorts of pressure that will come on me, I choose not to do this. It's not just about saying no to a cigarette. It's about saying no to a toxic relationship later on. It's about saying no to a peer pressure. It's about saying no when everyone is saying, hey, ye kya kar rahe ho? Ye to hamare yahan koi nahi karta hai. This is not supposed to be done. It's about the ability to disregard certain rules which were meant for a different era, different purpose, different individuals, but don't apply to you, which your inner heart tells you this doesn't apply to you. All of this courage actually comes by these small steps that you do. And that's true for everything that you will do in your life. If you're thinking that one day life will give you some major right or left turn, and that will be the turn that will decide your life, it doesn't happen that way. Actually, what happens is you're moving in life and there's a slight turn to the left, then again left, then again left, then you get an opportunity to turn, then again left, and one day you find that you're on the left-hand side of the road. It didn't happen because you came to a road junction and suddenly you saw it is a slow detour to a side, and if you're not careful, that slow detour can either take you down, or it can keep you at the same place, or it can take you up. We all know going down is easy, staying at the same place is kind of difficult, but going up is very difficult. So if you practice how to do difficult things, which at times is imposing that discipline on yourself. And what's the greatest benchmark of discipline? Anyone? Sorry?
Consistency.
One is consistency. The second is doing it regardless of the fact whether you feel like doing it, not feel like doing it, when someone is watching you, not watching you. At the end of the day, one person knows, no, what you're doing, with how much of interest you're sitting here, what are the, the intensity you're putting in anything. One person knows it, and that one person you can never get. Now we'll talk about mental vibrance. I genuinely believe that one of the greatest assets that you have at your age is optimism. Because life will give you a lot of things to be cynical about as you start growing older and seeing life, you will be betrayed, you'll have losses, you will have broken relationships, you will lose wealth, you will lose good friends, you at some day lose parents. All of these losses will happen, which will make you more and more cynical if you allow life to make you cynical. But if you decide that I will always look at the bright side of something, I will always find a way to find rituals which make me happy. I'll tell you this true story, personal story. You know it. So when I moved to Delhi in 2008 or 9, I used to run those days quite a lot. And because I was running, suddenly I started getting a pain in my right knee. So I went around all these physiotherapists, doctors, surgeons, जिसके पास जाओ एक नया idea देगा. Someone says इसमें surgery कर देते हैं. Someone says we'll put a gel inside and for 5 years it will not give you any problem. Asked him after 5 years, oh, by that time medicine would have changed and we will figure out at that time. Okay. So I went to 10 doctors, 11 different advices. So I had a friend, KP Krishnan, who told me he was a bureaucrat. And he told me, look, I'll send you to a doctor in Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, RML Hospital. Many of you might know it, right? Next to the parliament. So he told me वहाँ पे एक बहुत बढ़िया sports doctor है and you should go to him for 2 reasons. First reason is he sees more knees per day than all your private sector guys put together in a month. Secondly, उसका कोई एजेंडा नहीं है, उसको कोई किकबैक नहीं मिलेगा अगर इंजेक्शन डाला, सर्जरी किया, उसका तनख्वाह उतना ही रहने वाला. So he'll probably give you. So I went up to him, he did some taping, shaping, this, that. And then he told me to come after 2 days. So after 2 days, I went again. Then when I went the third day, I told him that, look, buddy, I really admire what you're doing for me. But do you have a friend in the private sector who you admire, to whom I can go? So he got very worried. He says, kya hua? I said, why did you? So what was happening was, because that time I was secretary to Government of India, so this whole entourage will take me straight to him, you know. And I would see on the way people waiting, sitting on the floor. I once saw a kid who was waiting in that waiting area, must have been 10 or 11 years old, holding his own catheter. And I asked him, since how कहता है सुबह से बैठे हैं साथ बाबूजी गए कोई पर्ची लेने के लिए and he still not come back. He was sitting there for 4-5 hours. So I told this doctor, यार ये इतने लोग का जो बद्दुआ लग रही है मेरे को, मेरा घुटना ठीक हो जाएगा, पता नहीं और क्या खराब हो जाएगा. And ever since I used to have this ritual that whenever I would have a bad day, I would just tell my driver कि बलबीर जी एक बार RML चलते हैं. He would drop me at the entry gate and wait for me at the exit gate. I would just walk through the hospital. When I would come out from the other end, I'd look up and say, God, everything's okay. You have to find these kind of rituals. If you don't find these rituals, you will be compelled or you'll gravitate towards looking at someone else's Facebook to see how happy they are, someone else's Instagram to see how pretty they are, someone else's whatever to see whatever they are. But you are not looking how blessed you are. Because to understand how blessed you are, you cannot look at Instagram. You have to look at real life. And you have to look at real life of millions and millions of people who are way in a different category as you are. Now the third one, brain plus plus, brain health and brain plus plus. I think reading is a very well hidden secret of leadership. I'll tell you why. How many of you read, forget about your academic, how many of you read, I mean, we haven't finished my question. How many of you read at least 2 books in a month? And I mean serious book, not buddy 3.5 girlfriend kind of shit. No, serious. If you read 2 books in a month, how many books does that make in a year? 24. And when I used to do my graduation, I did from Venkateshwara College. We had 4 subjects per year. Each subject had 1 book. So if you did 12 books, you got a degree. Anybody who reads 24 books in a year gets 2 degrees every year. And I can assure you, even by the show of hands here, there's a very interesting paradigm you'll see. Can you once again raise your hands, all those of you who read at least 2 books in a month or 1 book in a month? Okay, 1 book, okay. Still, you see how much head and shoulders you are above the people who don't read. So even in an eclectic group like this, where people are supposed to have knowledge, are supposed to have access to books, are supposed to have, know the importance of reading, even in a group of this nature, you find less than 10%, 20% actually do it. So imagine if you made it a discipline, how much of a pole vault you will get over everyone else. And when I say reading, I again want to categorize. There are 4 categories of reading. One is the crap that you read on your phone. Who won, Op Sindoor, kitna hua, this, that, what kind of shit. The second is when you read a op-ed in a newspaper. Op-ed by definition is someone's opinion on the subject, right? Then there's these long format articles that you find in Caravan or something like that, Frontline, which take one topic and cover it in Harvard Business Review, cover it in maybe about 10, 12 pages, and so it gives you an overview. But the real reading is when you read books about, if you want to understand about energy security, oil and gas, AI, this is not going to come in somebody WhatsApp or Instagram training. You really need to get down to the fundamental mechanics of how the human brains work, how robotics work, all of those things. And that will not come with this superficial reading. It will only come when you get the discipline to read. Are you with me so far? Good. The second aspect, listen to wise people. Listen to all sorts of wise people. Remember, wise people are not only the people who are up there or whatever that up there means. Wise people could be people who are your parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, the kirane wala store, the bai who comes to your house. All of them are wise people. Your misconception that only those people who have got a degree and alphabet in front of their name or behind their name, they are wise, is actually a very silly way of looking at it. I have worked for, as Radhi pointed out, a couple of people who employ thousands of graduates from Wharton, Harvard, and pata nahi kahan se, who themselves are 10th class pass. Right? So please don't go with this notion that wise people are only those people who have a brand around them or whatever. You will miss out on huge amount of wealth. Matter of fact, those of you want to, go on YouTube. There is a talk that I have done about lessons from the street. How you can get a 32-minute MBA just from watching the lessons of the street. It will tell you what knowledge lies if you just have the ability to look for it. Matter of fact, here I'm going to do it. Just remind me at the end, which I couldn't do in the GCC about that. Remind me in the end to ask you a question about why cheap phones in India have dual SIMs. We'll talk about it in the end of this session because that will illustrate this point to you. Third piece, I don't know whether you still have it in school, but in our days, we used to have something called Prezi writing, which meant you had to take a complex subject and synopsize it, not put it in ChatGPT, but actually synopsize it yourself. Because at the end of the day, a leader's job is to be able to get to the crux of the issue. Katha ka saar kya hai? Where is the pivot? What is that one element which will change the game completely? And that doesn't come in by feeding it into ChatGPT and saying, "Yeah, 800 page, 800 word ka usko 200 word bana." It won't come there. Because that will just reduce sentences. But it will come by you understanding how do you take a complex issue and simplify it. Remember, one of the best ways to climb the ladder of success in any organization is to be able to communicate with clarity. If you are able to communicate with clarity in very simple terms, I use this example all the time. We were taught in the army that if you tell a 10th class pass Jawan that a T-72's gearbox requires 650 milliliters of oil, that man is never going to remember it. But if you tell him one beer bottle, that person will never forget it. Just like you will never forget, though you have no need of knowing how much oil goes into a T-72 tank's gearbox. If anyone asks you, even in the middle of the night, you'll say, one beer bottle, which is 650 ml. I'm sure you all know that. The big one I'm talking about, not the small one. So these 3 skills, reading, listening to wise people, and writing, this actually are your brain push-ups. These are push-ups for your brain. This is what makes you a multifaceted individual who has the ability to do cross-pollination. Take an idea from one place, apply it in another place, take something else from another framework from one. This is the, to my mind, this is the Brahmastra of the future, where you are able to do fusion between different disciplines. And that will really, really be a game changer in the future. And I'll give you a couple of examples to illustrate that. Brain health plus, one of the points I've been telling Radhi to do for years, that you must learn how to read fast. There are tons of videos on it. How many of you know swimming? Good. Actually, not very good. How many of you don't know swimming? Raise your hands. Now, those who don't know swimming, by the way, swimming is a life skill. You must know how to drive and swim. These 2 things are life skills. They can save your life at some point of time, or at some point of time, they can take your life also. Those who don't know how to swim, this question is to them. Raise your hands once again. How long do you think you will take to learn swimming? Just an estimate.
Approximately like 3 months.
3 months? Anyone else?
A week. 1 week.
You will learn how to swim in one afternoon. Yes. If you want to learn how to swim, you get into a pool where you can't drown. Most of the pools you can't drown now. Any pool you go to, you cannot drown. You will learn how to cross a length in literally one afternoon. Now, whether you become an Olympic swimmer or you're able to swim 20 laps, 50 laps or whatever, that's completely dependent on how much you practice. But having this hawa in your head that it is going to take me 3 months to learn swimming is a myth. It's a complete myth. By the way, it doesn't take 3 months to learn any skill up to 30 to 40 to 60% of its usage. Malcolm Gladwell put that number. What was the number he said? 10,000 hours. How many of you have read that? Do you know of that concept? That you need to do a skill for 10,000 hours to become the top 1% in that field. But you just need a few hundred hours to become in the top 10% of that field. You don't need to become the top 1% in any field, so long as you are the top 10% of 5-6 different fields. Okay? So, acquire the habit of acquiring knowledge fast. If you are able to read 3 books in, say, a weekend, and you have an interview after that, I'm just making it up, let's say with the Mukesh Ambani, hopefully someday, you are able to talk to him about retail because you have read the Walmart story, you're able to talk to him about communications because you've read the AT&T story, and you're able to talk to him about energy because you've read Prize, which is a Pulitzer Prize winning book about energy. And you are completing it in a weekend, and when you go for an interview to that location, you will be head, shoulders, torso, and everything above every other candidate because they don't have this super skill. And this super skill, like any skill, can be developed, it can be learned, and it doesn't take 3 months to do it. Whether it's Vedic mathematics, Stretchenberg system of doing fast calculations, and most importantly for the world of the future, having additional languages in your repertoire. I was talking to a bunch of CA students last week, and I said that, I mean, it's an observation which is valid for you also, valid for all of us, that you will have to be a kick-ass CA. You will have to be really at the top of your game to make tons of money. But you just need to be a competent CA who also knows Mandarin. Because guess what? There aren't that many of them. So if you have the ability, and I can give you hundreds of anecdotes. I know a maidservant's daughter who taught herself Korean using just YouTube and went up to a level where she could appear for an exam in the Korean embassy, and the Korean embassy sent her to Korea for the advanced course, all costs paid. Maidservant's daughter. I mean, it's just saying maidservant's daughter, as in look at her wherewithal. What's the wherewithal she must have had to be able to do that? So there is no excuse for us, sitting bloody Alliance Française. There's no excuse you have for not acquiring at least 1 or 2 more languages than the spoken language that you do. There is absolutely no excuse, and if you don't do it, it's literally you leaving gems. You're leaving gems on the road because you choose, कौन करेगा यार, अपना अंग्रेजी बहुत है, गाली देने के लिए हिंदी है ही, so क्या करने का, right? Don't do that. Let's get to the second part, wealth. So how do you define wealth? Take this definition of wealth, it will help you a lot in life. Wealth is what you are left with after all your money is gone. That is real wealth. Okay? After all your money is gone, whatever you're left with, that's your real wealth. Your money will keep coming and going. I'll show you why. And what is common between these 4 characters and each one of you? Wealth is common. क्या कर रहे हो तुम वेदिका में यार? What is common? There's something common between all 4 of them and you. There's only one commodity that even Elon Musk can't buy. He can't manufacture one more day. ये 24 घंटा जो आपके पास है, ये 24 घंटा मुकेश भाई के पास भी 24 घंटा है, गौतम भाई भी, every one of them has only 24 hours. So I remember when I was doing this workshop with Adani, I used to tell them that how can you say I don't have the time? When a person like Gautam Adani or Mukesh Ambani, they find the time to acquire knowledge. So one of these smartasses, he suddenly said, but I have never seen them reading a book. वो इसलिए because he'll call Mark Zuckerberg, उसके साथ बैठ के 4 घंटे बात करेगा. So he doesn't need to read the book about Facebook because he'll talk to Facebook. But you don't have that ability right now. If you call Elon, he may not answer your phone for some reason. He doesn't know who you are as of yet. So your only way to acquire that knowledge is to actually leverage this time and leverage it with these aspects. First, you start understanding the combination of skills. I gave you the example, a CA and a person who can speak Mandarin. A management trainee who also understands the medical space really, really well. A person who is working in a certain sector but has cross-pollination knowledge of another sector. These are the individuals, a person who's traveled a lot, a person who's been to all these areas we keep talking about. Taiwan is coming up, Philippines is coming up. What does it take to put on a backpack and on a road budget, YWCA budget? You can actually go to these places, take a look at them. You can actually do that at this stage of your life, not when you're 10 years older or 15 years older. So all of these elements that you are looking at in terms of improving your knowledge base and experience base. Travel teaches a lot. Why does travel teach a lot? Anybody who's traveled, likes to travel, not very office to work but yeah. So travel teaches a lot. What does travel teach? Taking control.
Being able to organize yourself.
Yes. Yes. Okay. What else? Uncontrollable environment. You may be a funne khan, whatever. But when you come to the ठेले वाले से पूछना पड़ेगा ना, ये खान मार्केट का रास्ता कहाँ? You can't say I'm a doctor. Whatever. Say doctor है तो जा फिर तू. Right? You will have to ask people whom you don't know. You will have to ask kids. You will have to ask them with humility. You will have to humility से नहीं पूछेगा तो क्या करेगा वो? गलत रास्ता बताएगा. और चाय में थूकेगा भी. So you must have the humility when you are dealing with individuals when you are traveling, and that is why travel teaches you a lot. And please remember this saying: focus on Saraswati and Lakshmi will follow. Those of you who don't know the connotation of the two goddesses, Saraswati is the goddesses of knowledge and Lakshmi is the goddesses of wealth. And have you ever seen them being depicted in pictures? Yes. You will see Saraswati is sitting on a lotus, and Lakshmi is always standing. And why is that? Because once Saraswati comes, she will stay. She is not going to go. But Lakshmi will come and go. Matter of fact, she will come every year in December, November, right? Which basically means she goes after that. Right? So focus on Saraswati, Lakshmi will follow. Okay. And also, just remember this one thing, at the end of the day, what are we doing? We are playing Monopoly with real money. That's all we are doing, no? And we all saw how real money was during COVID. When the wealthiest of people died clutching a plastic sheet, not even a human hand, a chrome metal of a bed. That's what they were holding with all their $1 million in the bank. So please remember, wealth is not worrying about the pay packet. A very wise, actually Mr. Bharat Doshi told me this sentence, which I think you should all just imbibe and write down. The big bucks of your life you will make in 5 years. Every day from here to those 5 years, you must spend by preparing yourself for those 5 years. That will come, that opportunity will come. Now is not the time to worry about it. When I say now, I don't mean right now. I'm saying the first 4, 5, 8, 10 years, don't worry about money. If you've got a choice between money and getting a unique experience, if you've got a choice between hard cash and more raise and a better car and a better building, and you got a choice between that and more difficult posting, a thing that nobody else has done, which is a unique combination of stuff, you know which one to choose. Choose Saraswati, never Lakshmi. Saraswati will bring Lakshmi with her. Lakshmi will very often kick out Saraswati. It does, very often. Now we talk about relationships, which is possibly the best investment you can make at this stage. वो पैसा तो है नहीं और कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के लिए. So the investment that you make in relationships, and I have to tell you this is not easy. It's not easy. It's not how many friends you have in LinkedIn or Instagram. That's not relationships. It's a bit like taking a hammer and trying to pound a nail on a table. Yeah. So once you hit here, then you hit here, then you hit here, then you hit here, and you wonder why the nail is not going in. Because for the nail to go in, you have to keep it at the same spot and then hit it 6 times. Otherwise, you'll just have 6 dents, 6 likes, 6 Instagram friends, but you will not have relationships. Relationship requires time to nurture. It requires time to put in effort. It requires a certain amount of energy from your side. It requires you to give sacrifice. When a friend of yours is really in the dump and that day you have something else planned, you also need to go down in the dump with her and say, okay, I'll sit here with you and I'll forget that, party shati or whatever. That is a relationship. And please remember, this wealth will come back to you a millionfold. Many years ago, when I was a CEO of a very fledgling company and we did not have much budgets with us, I wanted a PR firm. I wanted to hire a PR firm. So whichever PR firm I spoke to those days would say, ek mahine ka 7 lakh, 8 lakh, retainer fee. I didn't have that kind of money. And at that point, there was a young person who had broken off from a major PR firm called Ad Factors. Some of you may have heard about that firm. His name was Chandramouli. His name is still Chandramouli. He started this company. No, many people change also, no? They add alphabets and all that. Some of you may have added also. Used to be big trouble for us in that grade, trying to figure out. Anyway, only unique Indian problem, or kahin nahi hota. So, Chandramouli was a fledgling CEO who was trying to, start his own company. So he came and met me. We had a discussion. I told him, bhaiya, ye 7-8 lakh to apne paas hai nahi dene ko. I can give you max 1 lakh per month. ठीक है ना? लेकिन what I'll give you is Mahindra का logo in your letterhead, because अभी now in your website you can put my client is Mahindra. तो है छोटा company लेकिन है Mahindra, so you can put that. And if you ever give a reference to a client, you can give my name, and doesn't matter international client रात को 12 बजे phone करेगा जो भी करेगा, I'll give you a thumping chit. And that is how we built our relationship. And today Chandramouli is a very, very, very big man, an extremely big man. He actually owns a couple of properties, including the India brand book that is owned by him. Now, fast forward about 25 years, and I joined Reliance Industries as the head of risk security. And one of the risks that I want to check out is the brand risk. Now, I've just joined the company, right? So I'm not still familiar with the protocol, कि वो invoice कैसे raise करना है, कहाँ जाएगा, ये वो, and all of that. Besides, if I kind of let loose the fact that I'm going to do a brand audit, you know what will happen. There'll be window dressing that will happen because people know it's going to happen. So I needed the ability to pick up the phone and talk to somebody and ask him to deploy a team for brand audit without even signing a PO, not even a proposal. Just on friendship ki yaar Chandramouli thoda ek karne ka yaar. Total cost may have been about 50-60 lakhs to do that whole thing, but on a phone call he would do it because of a relationship which was made 25 years ago. So this is the time when you should be building those relationships. And I've also tell you 3 segments, 3 categories of people with whom you have to build your relationships. So first is the whole world. Now the whole world actually for you consists of maybe about 100 to 200 people. Anna, your world can be made into heaven or hell depending on that 100 people circle inside which you are. There's a very popular saying which is spoken about in the academia from the other side, when they say it doesn't matter which college your child goes to, what really matters is who is the roommate. It's a fact. It's a fact, because if you get a wonky roommate in Harvard, you could be doing something else, and if you get a sincere soul in any other college also, maybe not even as prestigious as the one you are in, but your life can change dramatically. So it matters who these 100, 200 people are. But your real life actually is consisting of maybe about 20, 25 people, right? Do you care what Donald Trump thinks about you? But you'll definitely care what your boyfriend's father thinks about you. Mother even more, right? So what is that universe where you have to maintain a high degree of relationship, and also please carry out an audit of the relationships you are in to see whether those relationships are adding value to your life or they are eroding value on a consistent basis. On a constant basis, is there someone in your life who's gnawing you down? अरे क्यों कर रहे हो? इतना क्या try करना? छोड़ो ना, कल करेंगे इसको. Is that the kind of mantra that is being read into your ears by these very, very close friends? Or is it something that is boosting you? You have to keep doing that audit very often in life. Otherwise, we often fall into the trap of being in a relationship with somebody whose trajectory and pace of growth or direction of growth is very different from yours. And please remember, mediocre people don't think of themselves as mediocre. So what they will do is they will bring you down to their levels so that you become normal. Right? So please do this audit on a constant basis and look around and make sure that you are not turning into mediocrity to try and fit in with the peer group. But the last relationship you need to have is with yourself. And I'll explain this to you in a very different, you all must have done the Johari window at some point. Yeah? So what others know, you don't know. Now there is one square in that which nobody talks about, that you don't know and others also don't. I would urge you to dive into that square. Because it's in that square that you will discover every script that has been loaded into your head. Your head when you are born is a bit like two laptops given to two kids. One kid was a research scientist, used to look at that kind of stuff, social, the other guy was into Pornhub or whatever shit. After 1 year, when you look at their hard disks, you will see a very different kind of narratives on both the hard disks. That's true for the human brain also. So there are a lot of scripts that are already loaded in your head, and if you don't have a conversation with yourself, you will never discover which of those scripts are no longer valid. Those scripts don't exist anymore. The reasons for those scripts are long disappeared, but you're still carrying on with those scripts. I'm sure when you were in school, you must have had a teacher who you were shit scared of. Yes or no? Yes. My school is here, by the way, bang opposite the road. That was full of such kind of teachers. I was really scared of them. But now when I meet them at a reunion, I wonder, kya isse darta tum? Why? Because that script has changed completely. Now you don't have to wait for time to change the script. You can change the script by going back and looking at the script. You'll discover, why do I feel this way? Why do I get nauseated by this kind of a behavior? What is it that is bothering me about this person? That discovery will only happen when you go back into your own script. And one of the best ways to do that is to actually start writing a journal. I know this is a hackneyed term. It's told by several people and everyone, karna chahiye, but they don't do it. It will be the manual of you. Because what will happen is when you read that notebook or read those notebooks, years later, you will discover who you were when you were at this age. What were you thinking? What were your worries? And you will be able to look at it at that age and say, I was getting worried about completely unnecessary things. And why is that important? Also, it shows you what things I'm worried about right now will be exactly in the same place 2, 3, 5 years down the line. So it will give you that sense of confidence when you will read the manual of you, which is written by you. It's a bestseller. Even though only one person reads it, it is still a bestseller. All right. Finally, work. ये तो आप लिख के ले लो मेरे से. You know, no profession when you look from outside. क्या बता? मैं तो there was a movie long time ago. It was, I'm forgetting the name of the movie, Shatrughan Sinha and Amitabh Bachchan, in which they are lawyers or something like that. And I saw them in the movie. I thought the lawyers must be like doing all of this. You actually go to a court and see. Right? What is the situation? So any profession from outside is the brochure. It's the catalog to invite people to come in. And when you enter into that profession, ideally in any profession, if we are able to find 30 to 40% of the time when we are energized and we feel that it makes all of that sense, I think that's a great place to be. So let's not worry about whether this profession is great, not great, this, that. We were discussing the other day, you must have heard this survey, 100 best places to work. You heard of the survey, right? उसमें जो 100th आता है, वहाँ पे भी तो लोग काम कर रहे हैं ना? That's why the company is running. So don't look for, ideal situation, ideal company. It doesn't really matter. Just like I told you, Rumi matters more. Doesn't matter whether you join Google. What matters more is who's your immediate boss. Who are the group of people you are working with? What's the project that you're working on? Those things are far more important than just looking at the glamour of that profession. Also, a very important term. Don't look for very significant tasks to show your capability. Find significance in the simplest of. This is a true story I'm telling you. So in the year 2004, 2005, a delegation went from Mahindra & Mahindra to meet Michael Bloomberg. You know Michael Bloomberg? No, he's the mayor of New York. Maybe you will know. A big guy those days. Those days he was like equivalent of Elon Musk, kind of. Not that big, but he was there. So this delegation consisted of Mr. Bharat Doshi, who was then the CFO of Mahindra, Vineet Nair, who was the head of Tech Mahindra, Ullas Yargop, who was the head of the IT sector, and a very young CEO of a fledgling company called Captain Raghu Raman. Yeah. So when we came back, a lot of my colleagues asked, "तूने कैसे jack लगाया? तेरा कैसे jack लग गया? How did you go? This, that." So I told them the story which I'm telling you right now. Those days I used to work with a company called Mahindra Consulting. And in Mahindra Consulting, there was a division, a practice that was called Mahindra Special Services Group. We used to look at information security. That's another story for another day. But one day, we had a head of Copcom. She came to me and she said, we are doing some brochure. Those days, brochures, paper brochures. So we are doing for some NASCOM, something happening in Pragati Maidan. So you give a write-up about what you do. What's the practice, what your practice does. So I likha usme 150 words. Oh, okay, fine. I wrote something that this is what information security is important, blah, blah, blah. And this is what we do. So I gave it to her. She took it away. And after about a week, she came back with the dummy print, which the printer had given. Isko check kar lo. So I checked it and I found the one or two mistakes were there. Then I checked the whole layout and I found there were mistakes in other passages also. And also what had happened was, since she had taken bits and pieces from 6-7 practice heads, she just added a line on top of each paragraph, and we also do ABAP, and we also do SAP, and so it looked very disjointed, So I kind of rewrote it. I wrote it in my own language and I gave it to her and got printed, story over, everything, I forgot about it. Ho gaya, kahani khatam. 6 months later, we were supposed to be participating in another event. At that point, this PR Copcom lady, she has left the company and gone. She quit and went to another company. So now the CEO is struggling, kaun karega? The printer told her, hey, there was one captain who did it last time, he phoned me and said, so I was called. I was told, will you take it on? I said, okay, I'll take it on. I took it on, but this time, instead of asking these practice heads to give me 150 words, I said, यार तू समझा दे यार क्या करता है तू ये WNS क्या होता है, what is the बड़ी VAP and ये वो जो तुम्हारा acronym है, जरा समझा दे. And you sit down, explain to me 1 or 2 chart वार्ट बना के, and then I would do a write up. The guy would, yeah, you explained it better than me, man. Now this is also the time when Mahindra was going through a major rebranding exercise. Most of you will not even, you were not even born at that time. So this Mahindra Rise, the word Rise, that actually originated after that brand. There's a company brought in from US, Strawberry Frog. They came in and they did a full study of Mahindra. And when they were doing the study, they said, we want some reps from your side who can explain to us what your company does. So suddenly they have this one guy who understands what the IT sector does. So I was put into that committee. Now, because I'm in that committee, I also understand what farm equipment does, what Club Mahindra does, because with all this discussion, I also understand how branding is done, all of these things. And 1 year later, Michael Bloomberg met Anand Mahindra in Davos. And they liked each other, the chemistry hit. And he said, you know what, we should do some business together. So he said, okay, I'll go back and send a team. Ab tractor to bhej nahi sakta. Kya karega Bloomberg tractor ka? So he said IT companies. And when a IT company delegation was selected, they also wanted some young leader there who will do note shorts, take this thing, who also understands the IT sector very well. So when people ask me, how did you go to Bloomberg? I said it is by correcting someone else's mistake. So don't wait for that massive call that will come Monday or the massive offer that will come Monday. You will build your repertoire, you will build your brand, your capability and knowledge layer by layer. Become that person who, even if they are given the most mundane of tasks, will put their 150% on that. And that's the way that strategic leadership actually identifies who is a capable leader. They don't say कि बहुत बड़ा टास्क है इसलिए इसको देते हैं. Gold medalist कौन है वेदिका में उसको देते हैं. Doesn't work like that. They see who has been performing those tiny tasks 11 out of 10. 11 out of 10. That's the person to whom the major tasks go. There is a book called Deep Work, Cal Newport, and I don't want to dwell on it deeply, but you must get this ability to do deep work. I'll give you an example. Once I saw a painter painting live scenery. And she was like completely engrossed in that painting, totally engrossed in that painting, right? And you could actually see that this person who is, or if you've seen, have you seen sometimes these people in the beaches making these sand castles, the really intricate ones with their pattern and design and all of that stuff, right? Now, when you look at that piece of work, you know that this individual has focused completely on it, has not been doing anything else at that point of time. But if you look at a knowledge workers table, you're all knowledge workers table. So there'll be one laptop that will be open in which there'll be a MS Word screen. नीचे एक चैट चल रहा होगा, बीच में वो पॉपअप आएगा, फिर फोन अलग है. All of these things are happening. How can you do deep work? It is almost like that sand guy who is making it and someone, hey, सुन यार मेल आया तेरा, सुन तेरा दूसरा message आया. The person cannot do it. You cannot produce high quality of any sort of work unless you get into the discipline of doing deep work, which basically means cutting off from everything and focusing purely on that one single task until you are able to give it more than your 100%. This multitasking is a complete bullshit myth. If you don't believe me, you can actually go and search it out and it will tell you there is no such thing as multitasking. There is only one thing which you can say, I'm taking my 10% of my resources and allocating it to 2%. That is not, that's again doing the same thing, hitting a nail at 5 different places and wondering why it doesn't go in. Please master this. This will be a game changer for you. Read deep work, and it's like a how-to manual. If you just follow that, your productivity will increase. You won't believe it will increase 100x in terms of what you're doing if you practice that as a ritual. Okay, so we come back to these 4 quadrants: health, wealth, relationships, and work. And as I told you, not just every decision that you have taken till now, but literally from this moment onwards, every decision that you will take will always falling in one of these 4 quadrants. But now, at least you're conscious about which of the quadrants it's falling in and how each quadrant actually shapes every decision that you take in your life. Use this as a framework in the back of your head. It'll be kind of your map that will help you navigate the world that you are, going to embark into. Very exciting world. I used to use this slide to talk about a story when I would tell people that I'm going to give you an intern, one person, very intelligent person, very difficult person to lead, because that person is so intelligent that no matter what idea you will give or what thought you will give, that person will give you a counter to it. And as you can guess, who is that person? You yourself. Yeah. So I know we all aspire to become leaders. I'm leading a 50-man team, I'm leading a 200-man team, because somewhere we equate leadership with the number of people whose lives we control or whose lives we command. First you become MLA, then MP, then CM, then PM, and then, global leader. It's a way of measuring your growth. But the beginning has to be by leading yourself. Because if you're not able to lead yourself convincingly, if you're not able to give yourself a rating of 9 out of 10, you actually have no moral right to try and demand leadership from someone else. And guess what? Even if you try to demand it, the followers will know that you are a fraud. Because just like when you are in college, who do you spend most of your time discussing? Agreed? Similarly, when you will go to your places of work, 90% of the time your subordinates are going to be discussing you. And they will know you like a fish in a bowl. There is no pretending from them. There is no way you can say, oh, yesterday I was working too hard, when they can smell the alcohol in your breath. They know you because you are there. You are the North Star of their life. If you don't like them, their career can get ruined. If you like them, so they are completely focused on you. And that's one group you can never ever cheat. So begin by understanding that you have to lead yourself to the best of your ability. To the best of your ability, you will be having bad days. All of us will have. You will be having days when we are feeling low, feeling depressed, literally feeling depressed. I'm not using it as a metaphor. Actually being clinically depressed. Those things will happen. It happens to everybody. But if you are able to pull yourself out of it, ठीक है कोई नहीं थंबा हो जाएगा ठीक हो जाएगा कल tomorrow is another day चलो let's go for a body walk, let's go for a run, let's distract ourselves from this. If you are able to do those tiny things and lead yourself, leading rest of the people, I assure you, is not going to be a very big challenge. My last point is once again a reminder that each one of us sitting in this room, we belong to 0.000001% of Indian humanity, of humanity per se actually. If you don't believe me, when you're going back from here, look at any traffic light and you will see tiny girls, boys and girls, who are darting about in the traffic, who have to earn a certain amount of money. If they don't earn that quota, they get beaten. And if you don't believe me, any time at night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, you can go under any flyover of any city of this country and you will see children lined up and getting beaten because they have not met their daily target of begging. But for the grace of God, they could be our kids. But for the grace of God, they can still be our kids. Life doesn't come with a guarantee. Toasters come with guarantee. Life has to be appreciated for that so many planets you had to be born in the right family, you had to be born with all body parts working, you had to have parents whoever with whatever struggle, everybody cutting their stomach, doing this, doing that to put you up over here. So many planets had to fall in line for you to be here, right? But we don't look at all these great things that have happened to us. Instead, we use our Angrezi and PowerPoint making skills to make that 200 slide presentation as to why my life is screwed up. Don't do that. Keep remembering that you are such a tiny minority that you owe it to do well. You owe it to do good. Because if you don't do that, you are actually violating one of the greatest gifts that has been given to us, which is our good fortune. We have about 2,800 weeks left, minus 1 day. Aaj khatam ho gaya, almost. So get that sense of urgency. Please plan your year with 52 Sundays because that's all you've got. 1 year will go in 52 Sundays. You don't have the luxury, you don't have that oodles of time that you think you have. Every day is eating up on those 4,000 weeks. And I'll also tell you something else, my personal life experience. Usually people get their trajectory by their 30s. Early 30s tak, we discussed it a long time ago, you kind of reconcile कि बस अब ये life होने वाला है, अब मैं Elon Musk नहीं बनूंगा, Bill Gates नहीं बनूंगा, अब I'm going to be in this category. And this is that time when you can actually do a pole vault. You can actually use that pole vault to spring yourself up. You can't do that when you're 35, 38, 40, because then you will have many other encumbrances that will tie you down. And then you will not be able to do a pole vault. You'll do a little bit of a jump, but each time you'll jump, you'll see 7 threads attached to you. So you can't do a pole vault. So this is that phase of your life when you actually can leverage this few precious weeks that we have before you get to a place where it's going to be much more difficult to do. Thanks a ton for this opportunity. I had great fun talking to you.